report. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Gilded Cage. Ezekiel Hayes stood in his home office, adjusting his platinum cufflinks, a 10th anniversary gift to himself. The mirror reflected a man who had carved his path from nothing, his tailored suit a testament to his success. At 38, he'd built an empire that would have made his younger self proud. "Darling, the guests will arrive soon," Beatrix called from downstairs, her voice carrying a hint of impatience. "You know how punctual the Andersons are." Zeke allowed himself a small smile. Of course, the Andersons were punctual. They were desperate to secure his investment in their startup. He learned early that money brought power, and power demanded respect. The anniversary celebration filled their Los Angeles Hills mansion with the city's elite. Bea moved through the crowd with practiced grace, her designer dress catching the light. She touched shoulders, laughed at jokes, played the perfect hostess. Yet Zeke noticed how her hand never sought his, how her introductions of him always carried a subtle undertone. "This is my husband Ezekiel," she'd say, the words precise and measured. "He's in tech." The slight pause before mentioning his profession never failed to appear. Marcus Anderson approached, champagne in hand. "Zeke, I can't thank you enough for considering our proposal." "Don't thank me yet," Zeke replied, maintaining eye contact until Anderson shifted uncomfortably. "The numbers will do the talking." Bea appeared at his side, her perfume expensive and carefully chosen. "You're not discussing business at our anniversary party, are you?" Her smile remained fixed as she addressed Anderson. "He built his company from nothing, you know. Started coding in his garage. Now look at him." The pride in her voice didn't match her eyes. Zeke had seen that disconnect more frequently lately, had cataloged each instance with growing attention. 10 years of marriage had taught him to read the subtle signs. "I need to check on the caterers," Bea announced, already turning away. "Darling, make sure you mingle." Zeke watched her go, noting how she paused to speak with Jennifer Ross, whose husband had recently made partner at Goldman Sachs. He remembered their courtship 5 years after he'd sold his first company. Bea had been 26, fresh from her MBA, with ambition burning in her eyes. "She's quite something," his sister Maggie had said after first meeting Bea. "Very polished." "You don't approve," he'd stated. Maggie had shrugged. "Just make sure you know what you're buying into, big brother." The memory faded as Richard Sterling, Bea's father, approached. The older man carried himself with the arrogance of old money, though Zeke knew the Sterling fortune had nearly vanished before some timely real estate investments. "Quite a gathering," Richard commented, swirling his scotch. "Though perhaps a bit excessive for an anniversary." "Bea enjoys entertaining," Zeke replied neutrally. "Indeed she does. Always had expensive tastes, my girl." Richard's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Good thing you can afford them." The party continued into the night. Zeke played his role, the successful tech entrepreneur, the generous host, the attentive husband. He noticed how Bea's laugh changed pitch depending on her audience, how her stories of their courtship varied slightly each time. After the last guest departed, Bea kicked off her heels. Well, that was exhausting, though the Andersons seemed quite eager to please. "They need the money." "Don't be crude, darling." She headed for the stairs. "I'm going to bed. Don't stay up too late brooding in your office." Zeke watched her ascend, noting the slight sway in her walk, calculated like everything else. He waited until her door closed before entering his study and opening his laptop. The security footage from their driveway showed Bea arriving home yesterday, 2 hours before she'd said she'd returned from her charity board meeting. The timestamps didn't lie. They never did. He opened another window, reviewing the financial algorithms he'd created to track patterns in their accounts. Numbers had always made sense to him. Clean, logical, revealing. Unlike words, which could be twisted and reshaped to suit any narrative. His phone buzzed with a text from Maggie. "Call me tomorrow. Need to discuss something important." Zeke sent a brief acknowledgement, then returned to his analysis. The party had confirmed his suspicions. Something had shifted in his marriage. He'd built his fortune by recognizing patterns, by seeing the signs others missed. Now those same skills were telling him that his perfectly curated life might not be what it seemed. He pulled up another window, this one showing email metadata, times, frequencies, patterns of communication. Bea thought herself careful with her phone, but data never truly disappeared. Not if you knew where to look. The night stretched on as Zeke worked, his fingers moving across the keyboard with precise purpose. In the morning, he would present Bea with her anniversary gift, a custom Porsche 911, configured exactly to her specifications. He'd watch her browsing the manufacturer's website, noted every option she'd lingered over. Let her think him the devoted husband, eager to please. He'd learned long ago that perception was a tool, just like any other. The screen's glow illuminated his face as he continued his investigation. Outside, the city lights sparkled below, but Zeke's focus remained on the data unfolding before him. He'd built himself up from nothing once before. If necessary, he could do it again, but first he needed proof. The next morning arrived with the promise of California sun and the sound of BEA's designer heels clicking on the marble floors. Zeke had already been up for hours, reviewing contracts and preparing for the day's performance. "You look tired," Bea observed over breakfast, not glancing up from her phone. "The party must have worn you out." "Just focused on work," he replied, watching her tap out messages. "Ready for your surprise?" That caught her attention. BEA's perfectly manicured fingers paused over the screen. "Surprise? Darling, you didn't have to. 10 years deserves something special." Zeke stood, gesturing for her to follow. "Shall we?" He led her to the front drive, where the Porsche waited, gleaming in the morning light. BEA's reaction was perfect. The gasp of delight, the hand pressed to her chest, the quick kiss on his cheek. All precisely calibrated. "It's exactly what I wanted," she exclaimed, running her hand along the hood. "I know," Zeke replied simply. He held out the keys, watching as she took them. "Let me just call Mother quickly," Bea said, already pulling out her phone. "She'll want to hear about this." Zeke nodded, making a show of checking his own phone. "I need to confirm the registration details anyway." "Take your time." He walked toward the garage but stopped just out of sight. BEA's voice carried clearly in the morning air as she spoke on speakerphone, multitasking as she examined her new car. "Mother, you won't believe what Zeke just gave me." The conversation started normally enough, but as we continued talking, her tone shifted. Zeke stood perfectly still, recording every word, inflection. "Yes, another grand gesture," Bea was saying, laughter in her voice. "Dom says Zeke's like a puppy, always trying to please. If he only knew." Zeke's hand tightened on his phone, but his breathing remained steady. The mention of Dom's name confirmed one suspicion. He waited for more. "No, Mother, he doesn't suspect anything. You know Zeke, too busy with his computers to notice what's right in front of him. Dom and I are being careful." A pause, then more laughter. "The children? Please." Zeke was never good at math outside his precious coding. 9 months after business trips that never happened, but he was so happy to be a father. The words hit like physical blows, but Zeke remained motionless, his face betraying nothing. Years of business negotiations had taught him the value of control. "Yes, everything's arranged. Once the divorce is filed, Maggie won't know what hit her. Dom's lawyers will tear apart anything she tries." Poor Zeke, losing his money and his sister's reputation all at once. Another pause. "I have to go." "Yes, I'll call you later." "Love you too, Mother." The call ended. Zeke waited exactly 30 seconds before walking back around the corner. Bea stood by the car, running her fingers along the steering wheel. "Everything sorted?" he asked, his voice perfectly level. "All done," she smiled. "Thank you again, darling." "It's perfect." Zeke nodded, his expression pleasant and empty. "I'm glad you like it. I have some calls to make. Enjoy your new toy." He turned and walked back to his office, each step measured and controlled. Inside, he closed the door and sat at his desk, opening his laptop with steady hands. First, he pulled up his custom security software. Within minutes, he had remote access to BEA's phone and laptop. Next, he opened a secure messaging app and sent a text to Cal. "Need your expertise." "Lunch tomorrow." The response came quickly. "Same place?" "Yes." "Bring your tools." Zeke leaned back in his chair, his mind already mapping out the next steps. The betrayal burned, but he wouldn't let it consume him. No, he would use it, shape it into something precise and devastating. He thought of his mother, of how she'd left without a backward glance, how his father had collapsed from the strain, leaving Zeke to raise Maggie alone. He'd promised himself then that he would never be vulnerable again. The computer hummed as it began copying BEA's data. Outside his office, he could hear her on another call, her voice bright with excitement about her new car. Let her think she had won. Let her believe him blind and trusting. Zeke opened another window and began to type, documenting everything. He had built himself up from nothing before. He could do it again, but this time, he wouldn't be the only one starting over. This time, he would make sure the price of betrayal was paid in full. Chapter 2. The Web of Deceit. Zeke's fingers moved across his keyboard with practiced efficiency, each keystroke building his digital fortress. The monitors before him displayed streams of data, text messages, emails, GPS locations. 3 days had passed since the anniversary party, and he'd maintained his facade perfectly. Another late night? BEA's voice carried from the doorway. She wore her tennis outfit, fresh from her weekly match. Just finishing up, Zeke replied, minimizing windows with subtle movements. How was tennis? Oh, Linda. Always competitive. We lingered in the doorway. Join me for dinner? We could try that new French place. Zeke turned, offering a measured smile. Of course. Give me 30 minutes. Once B left, he reopened his surveillance program. The GPS data showed her tennis match had lasted exactly 45 minutes, peculiar for her usual 2-hour session. A few keystrokes revealed her true location, the Peninsula Hotel. His phone buzzed, Cal Jones requesting a secure video call. Zeke activated his privacy protocols before accepting. Cal's face appeared on the screen, his expression grim. You're going to want to see this, Z. Show me? I've been digging into Russo Enterprises like you asked. Their financials are interesting. Cal shared his screen, displaying complex financial records. See these transactions? They're using shell companies to hide major losses. Dom's been cooking the books for years. Zeke leaned forward. How deep does it go? Deep enough to put him away for a decade. But that's not all. Cal's voice lowered. I found emails between Dom and Beatrix from 8 years ago. Before your marriage. Send everything. Encrypted. After ending the call, Zeke sat back, processing the information. The pieces were falling into place, revealing a picture more complex than simple infidelity. He dressed for dinner mechanically, his mind working through scenarios. At the restaurant, he watched B order in perfect French, noting how she touched her neck when lying about her day. You're quiet tonight, she observed, sipping her wine, thinking about a new project. Zeke met her gaze. Something long-term. You work too hard, darling. Her hand reached across the table to touch his. You should learn to relax. Later that night, while B slept, Zeke read through the old emails Cal had uncovered. They painted a clear picture. B and Dom had dated in college, maintained contact, planned a future together. Then Dom had lost everything in the 2008 crash. Shortly after, B had met Zeke at a tech conference. His phone lit up with a text from Maggie. Got your message. My office, tomorrow, 9 a.m. The next morning, Zeke entered his sister's law office precisely on time. Maggie stood behind her desk, her expression hard. Tell me, she demanded without preamble. Zeke connected his laptop to her secure network and began displaying evidence. Text messages, emails, financial records, hotel receipts. Maggie's face grew darker with each revelation. That manipulative bitch, she finally spat. And Dom Russo? He's been under investigation 3 times for securities fraud. I need options, Mag. Maggie paced, her legal mind already at work. We document everything. Build an airtight case. But Zeke. She paused. The kids. Have you? DNA tests are already in process. Jesus. Maggie sat heavily. What do you need from me? Protection. She mentioned taking you down. I need to know what they might try. Let them try. Maggie's smile was sharp. I've dealt with worse than B. Sterling. Zeke outlined his initial plans. watching his sister's expression shift from shock to calculated interest. By the time he finished, she was taking detailed notes. "This is ruthless. Even for you," she observed. They made their choice. Leaving Maggie's office, Zeke drove to a discreet medical lab. The technician recognized him. He'd been paying well for rush service. "Mr. Hayes." She handed him a sealed envelope. "The results you requested." Back in his car, Zeke opened the envelope. The DNA results confirmed what BEA's phone call had revealed. Neither child was biologically his. He allowed himself exactly 1 minute to feel the pain, then locked it away. His phone chimed with a message from Cal. Found something else. In person only. They met at their usual spot, a quiet coffee shop in Marina del Rey. Cal looked nervous, glancing around before speaking. "Remember when you asked me to look into Dom's competition?" Cal opened his laptop. He's been systematically destroying smaller tech firms. Hacking, blackmail, insider trading. But he got sloppy last month. The screen showed emails between Dom and a private investigator, discussing plans to dig up dirt on rival CEOs. "He's going to come after you," Cal warned. "Once B makes her move, let him try." Zeke's voice was cold. "Keep digging. I want everything." That evening, Zeke attended a charity gala with B. She glittered in diamonds he'd given her, playing her role perfectly. He watched her work the room, noting each lingering touch, each meaningful glance. Dom Russo arrived fashionably late. Zeke observed their careful dance. Never too close, never too obvious. But now that he knew to look, their signals were clear. "Zeke!" Dom approached, oozing false friendship. "How's the tech world treating you?" "Profitably," Zeke replied, shaking his hand firmly. "I hear the same about your ventures. Can't complain. We should do lunch soon, discuss potential collaborations." "I'd like that." Zeke smiled, imagining the evidence accumulating in his secure servers. "Very much." Later, reviewing his surveillance footage, Zeke watched B and Dom slip away to a secluded balcony. Their conversation was picked up clearly by the directional microphone he'd planted. "He doesn't suspect anything," B was saying. "The fool bought me a Porsche. Patience, baby." Dom's voice was smug. "Everything's proceeding according to plan. Your father's lawyers are ready. I just want it finished. Playing the devoted wife is exhausting. Soon, once the divorce is filed, we'll destroy him completely." No one refuses Dom Russo and walks away whole. Zeke saved the recording, adding it to his growing collection of evidence. A new email arrived from Maggie, containing detailed legal strategies. Another from Cal, with more financial dirt on Dom. The pieces were falling into place. But something still nagged at him, a memory trying to surface. He pulled up Dom's old financial records again, focusing on the period just before meeting B. There was a series of transactions between Dom and Richard Sterling, BEA's father. Large sums carefully hidden, dating back to before Zeke had ever met B. This wasn't just an affair. This was a long con, years in the making. Zeke leaned back, a cold smile forming. They thought they were the hunters. They had no idea they were about to become the prey. His phone buzzed. Another message from Maggie. Found Sterling family dirt. Coming over. The game was changing, and Zeke was about to change it further. Chapter 3. The Gathering Storm. BEA's laughter echoed through their home, sharp and brittle. She sat in their kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, unaware of the surveillance devices capturing every word. "You should have seen his face when I told him I was thinking of joining the hospital board," she said to Dom, "so eager to support my charitable endeavors. As if I care about sick children." Zeke sat in his study, listening through his encrypted connection. His expression remained neutral as he recorded another piece of evidence. "The lawyer says everything's ready," B continued. "Daddy's team has built an impressive case. Poor Zeke won't know what hit him. Did you know he actually comes from nothing? His father was a mechanic." Her disgust was evident. The door to his study opened, and Maggie entered, her heels silent on the thick carpet. She carried a thick folder. "You need to hear this," Zeke said quietly, gesturing to the audio feed. Maggie listened, her expression hardening as B continued to mock her brother. When the call ended, she slammed the folder onto his desk. "I've got everything," she said. Financial records, old court cases, every skeleton in the Sterling family closet. Your darling father-in-law has been running a sophisticated fraud scheme for decades. Zeke opened the folder, scanning the documents. Show me. Property theft, tax evasion, bribing officials. Maggie pointed to specific papers. He ruined dozens of families, foreclosing on properties illegally. And look at this, he was involved in Dom's early business ventures. They've known each other for years. Before I met B. Way before. Maggie pulled out another document. Remember that tech startup you wanted to invest in last year? The one that mysteriously went bankrupt. Sterling Ventures bought their assets at auction, through a shell company owned by Dom. Maggie's smile was predatory. They've been targeting your investments, trying to weaken your position before filing for divorce. Zeke processed this information, adding it to his mental map of their scheme. The children? DNA results came back? When he nodded, Maggie swore softly. We'll add paternity fraud to the countersuit. But Zeke, are you sure you want to go through with this? It's going to get ugly. They made it ugly. Zeke's voice was cold. I'm just following their lead. A notification pinged on his computer. Cal requesting an urgent meet. Go, Maggie said. I'll keep digging. 30 minutes later, Zeke sat across from Cal in a private room at their usual coffee shop. His friend looked worried. They're moving faster than we thought, Cal said, opening his laptop. Look at these transfers. They're liquidating assets, moving money offshore. And Dom's been meeting with known corporate raiders. Show me the patterns. Cal pulled up various financial records. They're not just planning to take half in the divorce. They want everything. Dom's been promising his investors control of your company's patents. Let me guess, Sterling Ventures is heavily invested. Bingo. Cal hesitated. There's more. I found communications between B and some journalists. They're planning a smear campaign, going to paint you as unstable, dangerous. Zeke's expression didn't change, but his eyes grew colder. Time to accelerate our plans. Zeke. Cal looked uncomfortable. I've known you since college. I've never seen you like this. You've never seen me betrayed like this. The memory surfaced unbidden, his mother's letter, found on the kitchen table 20 years ago. Her explanation of why she'd left, how she'd found real love with his father's friend, how his father had collapsed 2 days later, the stroke leaving Zeke to raise Maggie alone. His phone buzzed, a text from B, working late at the charity. Don't wait up. Another notification showed her true location, a hotel downtown. With Dom. Send everything to Maggie. He told Cal, every transaction communication. It's time to end this game. Later that night, a new player entered the field. Detective Ava Reyes sat at her desk, reviewing financial records that had anonymously appeared in her inbox. Records showing years of fraud, manipulation, and corporate espionage. She noted the names, Dominic Russo, Richard Sterling, Beatrix Hayes. Cross-referenced them with ongoing investigations. Make connections. Her phone rang. An internal affairs detective. You seeing these records, Reyes? Yeah, pretty damning stuff. Sterling and Russo are connected to that real estate fraud case we've been building. But this new information, someone's been collecting evidence for years. Reyes studied a photo showing Dom and Richard Sterling meeting secretly 3 years ago. Who sent it? Anonymous source. Very thorough. Very professional. In his home office, Zeke watched multiple screens showing various surveillance feeds. B returning from her charity work. Dom entering his office building. Richard Sterling meeting with lawyers. His phone lit up with a message from Maggie. Everything's in place. Sure you want to do this? Zeke thought of the DNA results. Of years of manipulation and lies. Of his children who weren't his. Of the cold, calculating way they'd planned to destroy him. Do it, he texted back. He pulled up the recording from earlier. B mocking his background, his trust, his love for children who weren't his. Her laughter mixing with Dom's as they planned his destruction. The pain was there, deep and sharp, but he learned long ago to use pain as fuel, to transform it into something harder, colder, more focused. They thought him weak because he'd shown kindness. They mistook generosity for naivety, love for blindness. They were about to learn their mistake. Zeke opened his main database, reviewing the evidence he'd collected. Every betrayal, lie, secret meeting. All meticulously documented, time-stamped, verified. Tomorrow, he would start dismantling their world. Not with rage or violence, but with the same cold precision they'd used to plan his downfall. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they were about to learn that some games end in total destruction. And ZK's never played to lose. Chapter 4. The Checkmate. The St. Regis Ballroom buzzed with Los Angeles elite, champagne flowing as freely as the pretense of civility. Zeke adjusted his cufflinks, a gift from B during happier times, or what he'd thought were happier times. His expression remained neutral as he watched his wife work the room, her red designer dress drawing attention from all corners. Mr. Hayes? Detective Reyes appeared at his side, dressed formally but clearly out of her element. Quite the gathering. Detective, I wasn't aware the police attended charity functions. We go where the interesting cases are. She sipped her water, studying him. Your wife seems to be enjoying herself. Zeke's lip curved slightly. Indeed she does. Across the room, B laughed at something Dom Russo had said, her hand lingering too long on his arm. They thought themselves subtle. They had no idea what was coming. Ladies and gentlemen, the event coordinator tapped a microphone. If you'll all gather round, Mrs. Hayes has prepared a special presentation about our charity's mission. B moved toward the podium, confidence radiating from her practiced smile. Thank you all for coming tonight. As you know, children's education has always been close to my heart. Interesting choice of words, Zeke murmured, reaching for his phone. The large screen behind B flickered, not part of her planned presentation. Her voice faltered as a video began to play. He's such a fool. B's voice filled the ballroom, the footage crystal clear. She sat in a hotel room with Dom, both partially dressed. All that money and no idea how to use it properly. At least the children will be well provided for, even if they're not his. The room fell silent. B froze at the podium, her face draining of color. Of course they're not his, Dom's voice continued. But the idiot never questioned it. Too busy with his computers to notice basic math. The video continued, showing multiple clips, B and Dom mocking Zeke's background, planning their takeover of his company, discussing how they'd destroy his sister's reputation. Each revelation landed like a physical blow in the stunned ballroom. Security, Elijah Sterling shouted. Shut that off immediately. I'm afraid that won't be possible, Zeke spoke, his voice carrying clearly. Just like it won't be possible to hide the truth any longer. He moved through the crowd toward B, each step measured and deliberate. The screen shifted to show financial records, emails, hotel receipts, a mountain of evidence meticulously compiled. 10 years, he said, stopping in front of his wife. 10 years of lies, manipulation, and betrayal. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? Zeke B's voice shook. I can explain. Explain what? How you and Dom planned this before we even met. How my children aren't mine. How you plan to destroy not just me, but my sisters. The crowd murmured, smartphones recording everything. Zeke could see several society columnists frantically taking notes. This is slander. Dom pushed through the crowd. I'll have you arrested. No. Detective Reyes stepped forward, badge in hand. But I will be arresting you, Mr. Russo. We have some questions about certain financial irregularities. Your lawyer might want to join us. 2 uniformed officers appeared at the ballroom entrance. Dom's face contorted with rage. You planned this, he snarled at Zeke. You orchestrated all of it. I learned from the best. Zeke's voice was cold. You and B taught me all about planning and betrayal. Maggie emerged from the crowd, legal documents in hand. Mrs. Hayes, consider yourself served. The divorce proceedings will begin immediately. We're also filing criminal charges for fraud and conspiracy. Daddy, B turned to her father, desperation in her eyes. But Elijah Sterling was dealing with his own problems. More officers were approaching him, warrant in hand. Mr. Sterling, Detective Reyes said, we'll need you to come with us as well. Those property deals you've been arranging? We found some interesting patterns. The ballroom had become a circus of flashing cameras and shocked whispers. Zeke stood in the center of it all, watching his wife's carefully constructed world crumble. How? B whispered. How did you know? You got careless. Too confident. Just like your mother taught you. He stepped closer, voice low. The day you mocked my family, planned to destroy my sister. That's when I decided your destruction would be absolute. You can't do this to me, she hissed. I'll fight you. You'll what? Use your father's money? Your lover's influence? Zeke gestured to where Dom was being led away in handcuffs. Look around, B. You have nothing left. The evidence continued to play on the screen. Years of manipulation exposed for all to see. BEA's social circle drew back from her. Phones recording her humiliation for posterity. Cal appeared at Zeke's side, laptop under his arm. The files have been sent to all major news outlets. It's trending on social media already. You're just like them, B spat. Cold, calculating. No, Zeke cut her off. I'm what you created. Remember that when you're explaining to the judge why you committed paternity fraud. Maggie stepped forward, more documents in hand. All your accounts have been frozen pending investigation. The restraining order is effective immediately. You can't. We can and we have. Maggie's smile was sharp. You threatened to destroy my reputation? Let's see how you like having your own life examined in detail. The police were moving efficiently now, collecting suspects, taking statements. Detective Reyes watched it all with professional interest. Impressive operation, she said to Zeke. Almost like you've been planning it for months. Justice takes time, detective. But it always arrives eventually. The event coordinator was trying desperately to restore order, but the damage was done. Los Angeles' elite had just witnessed the destruction of 3 prominent figures, and the story would dominate social circles for months. Mr. Hayes? Reporters had begun arriving, drawn by frantic texts from attendees. Can you comment on the allegations? All evidence has been turned over to the proper authorities, he replied calmly. I trust justice will be served. He watched as B was escorted out, her mascara streaked with tears. She tried to destroy him, to take everything he'd built. Instead, she'd given him the motivation to dismantle her entire world. Was it worth it? Cal asked quietly. Zeke thought of the DNA test results, of the recorded conversations mocking his background, of the plots against his sister. Ask me when it's finished. Because this was just the beginning. The public humiliation was only phase 1. He had years of evidence to release, a steady drip of revelations that would ensure the Sterling Russo empire would never recover. Sir? A junior officer approached. Detective Reyes asked me to inform you she'll need your official statement tomorrow. Zeke nodded, watching as the last of the shell-shocked guests departed. The charity event was ruined, but he'd make a private donation later. He believed in karma. After all, his phone buzzed, a message from his security team confirming BA's things had been removed from their home. The locks were already changed. Ready? Maggie asked, gathering her documents. Almost. He surveyed the chaos they'd created, the wreckage of carefully crafted reputations. Send everything to the SEC tomorrow morning. Let's make sure the financial charges stick. Because Zeke Hayes didn't just get even. He made sure his enemies never recovered. And he was just getting started. Chapter 5, The Counterstrike. Elijah Sterling's private study buzzed with frantic energy as lawyers and crisis managers huddled around his mahogany desk. B sat in a leather chair, her designer outfit replaced by simple clothing, her usual polish cracked by desperation. He planned this, she said, gripping her phone. All of it. The public humiliation, the arrests, everything. Be quiet and let me think. Elijah paced behind his desk, his usual commanding presence diminished by recent events. Harrison, what's our exposure on the real estate deals? The lead lawyer adjusted his glasses. It's bad, Mr. Sterling. Hayes didn't just find evidence. He mapped out patterns going back 15 years. The SEC is involved now. What about our contacts in the department? They're not taking our calls. Something about an internal affairs investigation. B slammed her hand on the desk. This is ridiculous. He's just a tech nerd who got lucky. We can't let him destroy us like this. You underestimated him, Elijah snapped. We all did. Now shut up and let me salvage what I can of our family's reputation. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Sterling? Mr. Russo is here. Send him in. Dom burst into the study, his usual swagger replaced by barely controlled rage. Your pet lawyers better have a plan. My board is meeting tomorrow to discuss removing me as CEO. They can't do that, B protested. You own the company. Wake up, princess. The SEC doesn't care about ownership when there's evidence of fraud. Your husband made sure of that. Elijah raised his hand for silence. Harrison, what are our options? We can file countersuits for defamation, corporate espionage. No, Dom interrupted. I tried that already. Hayes has documentation for everything. Digital footprints, timestamps, witnesses. It's like he's been building this case for years. Then we attack him personally. B leaned forward. I know things about him, about his past. Already in motion. Elijah pressed a button on his phone. Sandra? Sent in the media team. 3 people entered, carrying laptops and tablets. The lead consultant, a sharp-faced woman named Rachel, pulled up a presentation. We've started planting stories, she reported. Allegations of domestic abuse, financial manipulation, unstable behavior. We have 3 major blogs ready to publish, and social media influencers lined up to amplify the message. Not good enough, Dom growled. I want him destroyed. What about his sister? Elijah studied a document. Magnolia Hayes, interesting past there. Some disciplinary issues in law school. A sealed juvenile record. Use it, BA's voice was hard. She wants to play shark lawyer? Let's see how she handles being the target. Harrison cleared his throat. Mr. Sterling, attacking his sister could backfire. I don't care. Release everything. And give me whatever you have on his friend Cal. He's the weak link, the one who leaked my company's information. The room buzzed with activity as orders were given and plans set in motion. B watched her father work, seeing him fully unleash his influence for the first time. Her phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. The text contained a video file. Wait, she called out. You need to see this. She connected her phone to the room's display. The video showed her and Dom in various meetings over the years, discussing their plans, mocking Zeke. The timestamp showed it was from years before her marriage. He has everything, she whispered. Every meeting plan? Impossible. Dom studied the footage. These meetings were private. No phones, no recordings. Another message arrived. Did you really think you were the only ones who could plan ahead? Elijah's phone rang. His face darkened as he listened. What do you mean? Account frozen. I don't care about regulations. I need access to those funds. The media consultant's tablet chimed with news alerts. Mr. Sterling, the stories we planted? They're being countered with documented evidence. Videos, emails, sworn statements. It's like he anticipated every move. Of course he did. B laughed bitterly. He's been watching us destroy ourselves this whole time. Dom's phone buzzed next. His face went pale as he read the message. My offshore accounts, they're empty. All of them. That's not possible, Harrison protested. Those accounts were hidden, protected. Protected by what? Dom shouted. Passwords? Shell companies? He's been inside our systems for years. Elijah slumped in his chair, suddenly looking his age. Harrison, what are our real options? The lawyer spread his hands. Legally, we're exposed on multiple fronts. The evidence is solid, the paper trail clear. If we fight this in court, we'll lose everything. Be finished. Another message arrived on all their phones simultaneously. Consider this a courtesy warning. Release those stories about Maggie, and tomorrow everyone learns about Buenos Aires. Elijah's face went ash-white. How does he know about Buenos Aires? What's Buenos Aires? B demanded. Nothing. Nothing that concerns. His phone rang again. This time, his hands shook as he answered. Yes? Yes, I understand. No, please don't, yes. I'll cooperate fully. He set the phone down slowly. The federal investigation is expanding. They're looking into international transactions. Daddy. B had never seen her father look afraid before. It's over, he said quietly. He's thought of everything. Each countermove we make just springs another trap. Dom wasn't listening. He stabbed at his phone, barking orders. Move the remaining assets. Now. I don't care about regulations, just he stopped listening. What do you mean? Accounts flagged? Override it. What? Since when? B watched her lover's face contort with rage. Their carefully constructed plans, years in the making, were unraveling in hours. Her phone buzzed one final time. You taught me an important lesson about trust, B. Now I'm teaching you one about consequences. Sleep well. The media consultant cleared her throat. Mrs. Hayes? Those society blogs we contacted? They're all running stories now about you. With evidence. B grabbed the tablet. Her breath caught as she read the headlines. Hayes' marriage a calculated fraud. Sterling family's web of deceit. Tech mogul's wife's secret life exposed. He's not just destroying us professionally, she realized. He's making sure we can never show our faces in society again. Dom's phone rang. He answered, listened, then threw it against the wall. The board meeting's been moved up. Emergency session tonight. Elijah's intercom buzzed again. Mr. Sterling? There are federal agents in the lobby. They looked at each other. The mighty Sterling family and their co-conspirators, reduced to trapped animals in a gilded cage. Options, Elijah demanded. Give me options. But as their phones continued to buzz with news of frozen accounts, leaked documents, and public exposures, they all knew the truth. There were no options left. Zeke Hayes, the man they dismissed as a simple tech nerd, had outplayed them at every turn. Their own weapons, money, influence, social status, had been turned against them. And somewhere in Los Angeles, watching it all unfold according to plan, Zeke Hayes was just getting started. Because vengeance, when properly planned, was a dish best served systematically, with no detail left to chance. And no mercy shown to those who had shown none themselves. Chapter 6. The Price of Revenge. Detective Ava Reyes sat at her desk, surrounded by evidence boards and computer screens. The Hayes case had consumed her department for weeks, each new revelation leading to deeper investigations. Detective, Officer Chen appeared at her door. You're going to want to see this. He handed her a tablet displaying a breaking news article. Russo Enterprises steps down amid federal investigation. Hayes strikes again, she murmured. Her phone rang, a secure line she'd set up specifically for this case. Reyes, Detective. Zeke's voice was calm, controlled. I assume you've seen the news? I have. Care to explain how you knew about Russo's offshore accounts? The same way I knew about the Sterling family's real estate fraud. People get careless when they think they're untouchable. Reyes leaned back in her chair. They're claiming entrapment. Let them. Evidence doesn't lie, Detective. Unlike my wife. The bitterness in his voice was barely detectable, but Reyes had been a cop too long to miss it. They tried to set a trap for you last night. I know. Rather amateur attempt, really. 3 men with recording devices, trying to provoke you into assault. Almost like they needed something to support those abuse allegations they've been spreading. Almost. Zeke agreed. How's the investigation into Sterling's judge contacts going? Reyes smiled despite herself. You know I can't discuss ongoing investigations, Mr. Hayes. Of course not. Good day, Detective. She hung up, studying the evidence boards. Hayes had handed them years of white-collar crime on a silver platter, each piece documented and verified. It was almost too perfect. Her computer chimed with a new email. More financial records, these showing a complex money laundering operation through Sterling's charity foundations. Chun, she called out. Give me everything on the Sterling Family Foundation. Tax records, donor lists, everything. Across town, Zeke sat in his home office, monitoring multiple screens. Maggie entered, carrying legal documents. They tried to access my juvenile records, she announced, dropping into a chair. Trying to dig up dirt? I know. It's been handled. Zeke. Maggie studied her brother. You look tired. I'm fine. No, you're not. None of us are. Cal's facing harassment at work. I've got investigators following me. And you made a choice. He cut her off. They started this, Mag. They planned to destroy both of us. And now we're destroying them instead. Does that make us any better? Zeke turned to face his sister. They used me for 10 years. Made me raise children that weren't mine. Planned to take everything we've built. So no, I won't feel guilty about fighting back. His phone buzzed, Cal requesting entry at the security gate. Minutes later, his friend burst into the office. They're making their move, Cal announced, opening his laptop. V and Dom just booked tickets to Switzerland. First class? Zeke asked mildly. Of course. Using one of their hidden accounts. The one you didn't freeze. Maggie straightened. You left them an escape route? That's not like you. I left them an obvious escape route, Zeke corrected. One that's being monitored by multiple federal agencies. Cal whistled. You're going to let them walk right into it? They're desperate now. Making mistakes. Detective Reyes's team is ready to intercept them at the airport. His phone buzzed again, this time with a message from B. You've had your revenge. Let us go. Zeke showed the message to his sister and friend. Opinions? It's enough, Cal said quietly. They're ruined. Their reputation's destroyed. Maybe they're still trying to destroy us, Maggie interrupted. Those stories about me? They're getting uglier. More personal. I know. Zeke's voice hardened. That's why this ends today. He pressed a button on his computer. On the screens, new information began flowing to news outlets, social media, and law enforcement agencies. What did you just release? Cal asked. Everything. The complete records of their conspiracy. The offshore accounts. The illegal deals. The evidence of how they planned this before I even met B. Maggie studied the data. This will destroy them completely. They'll never recover. That's the point. His phone lit up with another message. Detective Reyes. Subjects located. Moving in, they watched on the security feeds as police cars surrounded B and Dom's vehicle en route to the airport. The arrest was swift, professional. 10 years, Zeke said quietly. They spent 10 years planning to tear me down. I spent 3 months making sure they'd destroy themselves. Cal's laptop chimed with news alerts. The story was breaking across all major networks now. The complete exposure of the Sterling Russo conspiracy. Mr. Hayes? His security team's voice came through the intercom. Sir, there are reporters at the gate. No comments, he replied. Direct them to my lawyer. Maggie's phone rang. The State Bar Association. She stepped out to take the call, leaving Zeke and Cal alone. Was it worth it? Cal asked. All of this? Zeke thought of the DNA test results, of BA's mockery, of their plans to destroy his sister. Ask me when it's finished. It's not finished? Not yet. He turned back to his monitors. They threaten my family, Cal, try to take everything we built. Some debts can only be paid in full. His phone buzzed one final time. Another message from B, sent just before her arrest. You've become a monster. No, he murmured, deleting the message. I just finally stopped pretending to be anything else. Because revenge, when properly executed, wasn't about anger or passion. It was about precision, about patience, about making sure your enemies fell by their own hands. And Zeke Hayes had learned that lesson well. Too well, perhaps, but that was a price he was willing to pay. Chapter 7. The Fall. The press conference room at the Russo Enterprises headquarters buzzed with anticipation. Reporters packed the space, cameras ready, phones recording. Dom Russo stood at the podium, his expensive suit unable to hide his disheveled appearance. These allegations are completely false, he declared, his voice lacking its usual confidence. Mr. Hayes has orchestrated a malicious campaign of lies. Mr. Russo, a reporter stood. Can you explain the offshore accounts traced to your company? Or the emails showing your involvement in market manipulation? Another called out. Dom gripped the podium. No comment on ongoing investigations. In the back of the room, Bea watched her lover crumble under the media assault. Her own designer outfit felt like armor, protecting her from the scrutiny of dozens of cameras. Mrs. Hayes, a reporter turned to her. How do you respond to evidence showing you married your husband as part of a long-term financial scheme? Bea stepped forward, channeling years of social training. These accusations are, we have video evidence of you discussing the plan with Mr. Russo years before your marriage. The reporter interrupted, holding up a tablet. Would you like to comment on this footage? The screen played one of their private conversations. Bea watched herself laugh about Zeke's trust, mock his background, plan his destruction. The timestamp showed clearly 8 months before she'd met him. This is a private matter, she managed. Is it private that you committed paternity fraud? Another reporter stood. That you deliberately deceived Mr. Hayes about his children's parentage? The questions came faster now, each one backed by evidence Zeke had released. Documents, videos, emails, a decade of deception laid bare. In his office across town, Zeke watched the press conference on multiple screens. Maggie sat beside him, reviewing legal documents. The SEC filing just went public, she reported. Dom's board is moving for immediate removal. His stock, Zeke asked, down 60% in the last hour. Trading might be halted soon. The screen showed Dom attempting to leave the podium, reporters swarming. B tried to follow, but was cut off by more questions. Mrs. Hayes, is it true you and your father planned to bankrupt your husband? Mr. Russo, did you use insider trading to destroy your competitors? Zeke's phone buzzed, Detective Reyes calling. Yes. Federal arrest warrants just came through, she reported. We're moving now. On screen, federal agents entered the press conference. Dom's face drained of color as they approached the podium. Dominic Russo, the lead agent's voice carried clearly through the microphone. You're under arrest for securities fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. The cameras captured everything. Dom being handcuffed, B backing away in horror, reporters shouting questions. A perfect media circus. Sir? Zeke's security team buzzed in. Mr. Sterling is at the gate. He's demanding entry. Let him in. Minutes later, Elijah Sterling burst into the office. The usually immaculate man looked haggard, desperate. You've made your point, he snarled. Name your price. Price? Zeke turned from the screens. You think this is about money? Everything's about money. What do you want? Half my assets? All of them? I want nothing from you, Elijah. I'm taking everything from you. There's a difference. Sterling's face reddened. You can't. Your real estate fraud is already being investigated. The SEC is looking into your market manipulation. The IRS has questions about your creative accounting. Zeke's voice remained calm. Did you really think I wouldn't find it all? I'll fight this. I have connections. Had connections, Maggie corrected, not looking up from her papers. Amazing how quickly people distance themselves when corruption is exposed. The screen showed Dom being led away in handcuffs, B being served with legal papers by federal agents. That's my daughter, Sterling whispered. The daughter you taught to use people? To see marriage as a business transaction? Zeke stood. You raised her to be a predator, Elijah. Don't act surprised when she faces predators' consequences. Sterling grabbed his chest, staggering. Maggie looked up, alarmed. Should I call an ambulance? She asked her brother. Zeke studied his father-in-law's pale face. Your choice, Elijah. Die now from the stress, or live to watch your empire crumble piece by piece. Sterling straightened with effort. You're a monster. No, I'm what you created. The self-made man you looked down on, who learned to play your game better than you. Security arrived to escort Sterling out. Through the windows, Zeke watched his father-in-law's car leave, driving away from a life of privilege about to be destroyed. His phone buzzed again, Cal updating him on the financial fallout. Dom's arrest had triggered investigations into multiple companies. The Sterling family's connections were toxic now, their former allies scrambling to save themselves. Zeke? Maggie's voice was soft. The divorce papers are ready, and the custody agreements. He nodded, watching the screens where B was trying to escape the media frenzy. Her carefully constructed world was collapsing, each revelation stripping away another layer of pretense. 10 years, he said quietly. They spent 10 years planning to destroy me. I spent 3 months ensuring they'd destroy themselves. And now we watch them fall. All of them. The news channels were running constant coverage. Dom's criminal empire exposed. The Sterling family's corruption revealed. BEA's calculated deception laid bare. Zeke had planned it perfectly. Each revelation timed for maximum impact. Each piece of evidence released when it would do the most damage. A symphony of destruction, conducted with precise control. His phone lit up with a message from Detective Reyes. Sterling just collapsed at his club. Heart attack. Karma, Maggie commented, reading over his shoulder. The screen showed B being escorted by police, her designer outfit and perfect makeup unable to hide her desperation. The society queen brought low, exposed as a fraud. Sir? His security team again. The children's school called. The press is trying to get interviews. Move them to the safe house, he ordered. No contact without my approval. Because even in revenge, there were lines he wouldn't cross. The children were innocent of their mother's crimes. But B, Dom, Elijah, they would learn the price of betrayal. Not in quick violence or dramatic confrontation, but in the slow, inexorable destruction of everything they valued. Money, power, reputation, social standing. You would take it all? Because Zeke Hayes had learned from their betrayal, had transformed pain into purpose, hurt into calculated revenge. They had taught him well, too well perhaps, but that was their mistake to regret, not his. Chapter 8, The Aftermath. Detective Ava Reyes sat across from Zeke in her office. Case files spread between them. 3 weeks had passed since the arrests, and the dust was beginning to settle. The DA's office wants your testimony, she said, studying his face. Though I suspect you already knew that. I have all the evidence they need, Zeke replied, sliding a USB drive across her desk. Digital trails don't lie, detective. No, they don't. She picked up a file. Dominic Russo is facing 20 years. His lawyers are scrambling for a plea deal. And B, 10 years minimum. The fraud charges alone. Reyes leaned back. You planned this for months, didn't you? Built your case piece by piece. They spent years planning to destroy me. I just returned the favor. That level of patience, of control. She met his gaze. It takes a toll. Trust me, I've seen it before. Are you concerned for my mental health, detective? Professional curiosity. Most people in your situation would have snapped, done something rash. But you orchestrated their complete destruction. Legally, financially, socially. Zeke stood, buttoning his suit jacket. They chose their path. I simply ensured they faced the consequences. After leaving the police station, he drove to Maggie's law office. His sister waited with more documents requiring his attention. The divorce is final, she announced. Judge expedited it given the circumstances. The children? Full custody, as expected. BEA's lawyers didn't even contest it. Maggie hesitated. Have you told them yet? About? That I'm not their biological father? Zeke's voice remained steady. Not yet. They've lost enough for now. You're a better person than me. If someone had done this to me, it's not about being better. It's about breaking cycles. His phone buzzed, Cal requesting an urgent meeting. They met at their usual coffee shop, now empty of other customers. I've been thinking, Cal said without preamble, about starting fresh. New company, new direction. Could use a partner with your skills. Running away, Cal? Moving forward. After everything that's happened, Cal spread his hands. Maybe it's time for all of us to start over. Zeke studied his oldest friend. Cal had stood by him through everything, risked his own career to help expose Dom's crimes. What kind of company? Cybersecurity. Real this time, not the corporate espionage Dom was running. We've seen how vulnerable companies are, how much damage the right information can do. Using our powers for good. A faint smile crossed Zeke's face. Something like that. Interested? Before Zeke could respond, his phone lit up with news alerts. Elijah Sterling had died in his hospital bed, his empire crumbling around him. Your father-in-law? Cal said quietly. Former father-in-law. Do you feel anything? About his death? Zeke thought about it. He died as he lived, unable to face losing control. They sat in silence, considering the path that had led them here. The complete destruction of the Sterling Russo empire had sent shockwaves through Los Angeles society. Sir? His security team messaged. The children are asking to see you. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Cal watched him stand. You're really going to raise them? After everything, they're innocent of their mother's crimes. Breaking cycles, remember? The drive home gave him time to think. About choices, consequences, the price of revenge. Detective Reyes was right. It had taken a toll. At home, the children waited in the living room. They looked small, vulnerable, their world turned upside down by adult betrayals. Dad? Emma, the oldest at 9, spoke first. Are you going to send us away? Zeke sat across from them. No, never. But Mom said in the videos. Thomas, 7, struggled with the words. Your mother made choices. Bad ones. But that has nothing to do with you. Are you mad at us? Emma's voice was small. No. Zeke met their eyes. You're my children. Biology doesn't change that. The admission hung in the air. They were smart kids, They'd heard things, understood more than adults realized. Mom's going to jail, isn't she? Thomas asked. Yes. For a long time. Emma wiped her eyes. Is it bad that I'm not sad? After what she did to you? Zeke moved to sit between them. Feelings aren't good or bad. They just are. What matters is what we do with them. His phone buzzed again, Maggie updating him on the legal proceedings. More charges filed, more evidence admitted. What happens now? Emma asked. Now we move forward. Together. Because revenge had its price, but it also had its lessons. About strength. About choices. About breaking cycles of betrayal. The children leaned against him, seeking comfort in their changed world. They were his legacy now. Not his revenge, not his destroyed marriage, but these two souls who needed him to be better than those who had raised him. Dad! Thomas looked up. Can we get ice cream? A genuine laugh escaped him. Yes. Yes, we can. Because life moved forward, even after betrayal, even after revenge. The question was what you carried with you, and what you left behind. Zeke had made his choice. It was time to build something new from the ashes of what was destroyed. Something better. Chapter 9. The Obsidian Heart. 5 years had passed since the fall of the Sterling Russo Empire. Zeke sat in his new office, reviewing security protocols for a Fortune 500 client. Hayes and Jones Cybersecurity had become the go-to firm for companies wanting to protect themselves from the very tactics he'd once used for revenge. Mr. Hayes? His assistant's voice came through the intercom. Detective Reyes is here to see you. Send her in. Ava Reyes entered, now a captain but still carrying herself with the same direct intensity. Fancy office, Hayes. Success looks good on you? What brings you by, Captain? BEA's being released next week. Early parole for good behavior. She studied his reaction. Thought you should hear it from me. Zeke nodded, unsurprised. He'd tracked the case through official channels. And Dom? Still serving his 20. No parole for him. Too many financial charges. She sat across from him. You've changed. Have I? 5 years ago, you orchestrated the complete destruction of 3 people who betrayed you. Now you're protecting companies from people like you were. People change, Captain, or they don't survive. His phone buzzed, Emma asking permission for a weekend trip with friends. At 14, she was growing into a confident young woman, nothing like her manipulative mother. The kids know everything now, don't they? Reyes asked. They deserve the truth. Age-appropriate versions, but yes. And they stayed, even knowing you're not their biological father. DNA doesn't make a family. Choices do. His computer chimed with a message from Cal. Another major contract secured. Their company had grown beyond their initial dreams, built on principles of protection rather than destruction. You know, Reyes said, I kept expecting you to slip, to reveal some hidden agenda beyond revenge. But you really did just want justice, didn't you? Justice. Revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing. The view from his office showed downtown Los Angeles, the city where he'd built and lost and rebuilt his life. Somewhere out there, Bea would soon walk free, her designer clothes replaced by prison-issued clothing. Have you seen the news? Reyes pulled up an article on her phone. Your ex-wife's been writing to studios, trying to sell her story. The Silicon Valley Revenge. That's what she's calling it. Let her. The truth is already public record. You really don't care anymore, do you? Zeke considered the question. I cared enough to destroy them completely. Now, they're just cautionary tales. His phone buzzed again, Thomas this time, asking for help with a coding project. At 12, he showed a natural aptitude for technology, but used it for creation rather than destruction. Your kids are doing well, Reyes observed. I see them in the society pages sometimes. School achievements, charity work. They're breaking cycles, building something better. A notification popped up on his screen. Another article about BEA's upcoming release. The photos showed a woman aged beyond her years, her former beauty stripped away by prison life. You went to an extent I've never seen before, Reyes said. Total victory. Yet here you are, running a legitimate business, raising kids who adore you, living a normal life. Normal is relative, Captain. His assistant buzzed again. Sir? Your daughter's school, is on line one. Something about her science project winning first place. Pride, genuine, untainted by revenge, filled him. "Excuse me, Captain. Duty calls. Dad duties trump revenge discussions?" Reyes stood, smiling. "You really have changed." After she left, Zeke sat looking at the photos his children sent regularly. Emma's science project, Thomas's coding competition, family dinners and homework sessions, and normal, everyday moments. His phone showed a message from Maggie. "Saw the news about B. You okay?" "Better than okay," he replied, because he had built something stronger than revenge. Something that would outlast the destruction he'd orchestrated. A legacy of breaking cycles rather than perpetuating them. His computer showed another news alert. B had been spotted at a homeless shelter, preparing for her release. The mighty Sterling heiress, reduced to charity cases and halfway houses. But Zeke felt no satisfaction in her fall. No joy in her destruction. Those emotions belonged to a different man from a different time. "Dad." Emma's voice came through his phone. "Can you help me prep for my presentation tomorrow?" "On my way home, princess." He gathered his things, nodding to his security team. Outside, Los Angeles continued its eternal dance of ambition and destruction, of rises and falls. But Zeke Hayes had chosen a different path. Not forgetting, never forgetting, but moving forward, building rather than destroying. Because sometimes the best revenge wasn't in destroying your enemies. It was in building something they could never touch. Something stronger than hate. Something worth protecting. His phone buzzed one final time. A family photo from Thomas, showing him and Emma at dinner, seats saved for their father. Zeke smiled, genuine, unburdened by the past, and headed home to his real legacy. Not the revenge that had defined him, but the love that had saved him. Epilogue. 10 years later, the Hayes and Jones cybersecurity headquarters dominated the Los Angeles skyline, its modern architecture a testament to success built from the ashes of betrayal. Zeke Hayes, now approaching 50, stood in his penthouse office, reviewing security protocols for their newest client, the Federal Reserve. "Dad." Emma Hayes, 19 and studying computer science at Stanford, entered the office. Her confident stride and sharp intelligence reflected years of careful guidance. "The board meeting's about to start. How's the internship program coming along?" Zeke asked, gathering his materials. "Running perfectly, though Uncle Cal thinks we should expand it next year." She grinned. "He says we're not terrorizing the interns enough." 10 years had transformed the company from a fresh start into a global leader in cybersecurity. Their client list included governments, Fortune 500 companies, and international organizations, all seeking protection from the very tactics Zeke had once employed for revenge. The boardroom buzzed with activity as executives prepared for their quarterly meeting. Cal Jones, now Chief Technology Officer, was demonstrating their latest security protocol to potential investors. "Our system detected and neutralized 47 million attempted breaches last quarter alone," Cal explained. "Using the same principles that once exposed corporate espionage, we now protect trillions in assets." Zeke took his place at the head of the table, noting familiar faces. His team included former FBI cybercrime experts, reformed hackers, and brilliant minds drawn to the challenge of protecting rather than destroying. "Before we begin," he addressed the room, "I'd like to acknowledge our newest partnership. Thomas?" Thomas Hayes, 17 and already showing his father's technical brilliance, stepped forward. He developed an AI-driven security system that had caught the attention of major tech companies. "The algorithm adapts to attack patterns in real time," Thomas explained, his presentation reflecting years of learning from both his father and Cal. "We're seeing a 99.8% success rate in preventing data breaches." The meeting proceeded efficiently, showing profit margins that would have made Dom Russo envious, if he weren't still serving his 20-year sentence. Zeke had tracked his former rivals' appeals. Each one denied as evidence continued to surface of past crimes. After the meeting, Maggie Hayes arrived for their weekly lunch. At 45, she'd become one of Los Angeles's most respected attorneys, her firm specializing in corporate law and cybercrime. "You'll never guess who I saw today," she said as they settled in his private dining room. "Try me?" "B." Outside the courthouse, Maggie studied her brother's reaction. She's filing for bankruptcy. Again, 5 years after her release, Beatrix Sterling Hayes had tried repeatedly to rebuild her life. But her name was toxic in social circles. Her attempts at redemption met with closed doors and turnbacks. "How's she looking?" Zeke asked, more curious than concerned. "Old. Beaten. Working as a paralegal at some strip mall law firm." Maggie shook her head. "She tried to speak to me. Wanted to know about the kids." "What did you tell her?" "That Emma's at Stanford on a full academic scholarship. That Thomas is already being courted by Silicon Valley. That they're thriving without her." The truth was more complex. Both children had needed therapy to process their mother's betrayal, but Zeke's steady presence and honest approach had helped them build resilience rather than bitterness. Captain Reyes called. Maggie continued, using the title despite Ava's recent promotion to commissioner. "She's considering running for mayor." "Good for her." Zeke had maintained a professional relationship with Reyes, their shared history creating an unusual alliance. His phone buzzed, a message from his security team. Another reporter trying to contact him about a Where Are They Now story focusing on the Sterling Russo scandal. 10 years, Maggie mused. Sometimes it feels like yesterday, and sometimes it feels like another lifetime. The afternoon brought a visit from Emma's cybersecurity class. Young minds eager to learn from the industry leader. Zeke watched his daughter lead the presentation, her command of the material matching her understanding of its ethical implications. "My father taught me that power isn't about destruction," she told her peers. "It's about protection, about using your skills to prevent what happened to him from happening to others." Later in his private office, Zeke reviewed files his team had flagged. Dom Russo had attempted to establish online connections from prison, reaching out to former associates. The attempts were monitored, documented, and neutralized before they could cause harm. "Mr. Hayes?" His assistant buzzed. "Commissioner Reyes is here." Ava Reyes entered, her police uniform replaced by the sharp suits of a public official. "Impressive operation you're running, Hayes. Your security protocols just saved the city millions in prevented cyber attacks." "Just doing our job, Commissioner." Still modest after all these years? She sat across from him. "I saw the profiles in Forbes and Time. The man who transformed corporate security. Quite a legacy." Speaking of legacy, Zeke pulled up a file. "Congratulations on the mayoral bid. How did you never mind?" "I don't want to know." She smiled. "Your support would mean a lot to the campaign." "Already arranged. My team will handle your cybersecurity personally." Their conversation was interrupted by Thomas entering with his latest project, a security system designed specifically for protecting political campaigns from foreign interference. "Commissioner," he greeted Reyes. "Want to see something cool?" Zeke watched his son demonstrate the technology, pride mixing with satisfaction. Thomas had inherited his father's technical brilliance, but none of the darkness that had once driven it. The day continued with meetings, projects, and family moments interwoven. Emma discussing her research into quantum encryption, Thomas debugging code with Cal, Maggie calling to coordinate their mother's upcoming birthday celebration. Evening found Zeke in his home office, reviewing old files. Photos of the Sterling Russo empire's collapse. News articles about Dom's conviction and BEA's downfall. Elijah Sterling's obituary. A message popped up. Emma sending pictures from a Stanford Tech conference. Another from Thomas about his latest coding breakthrough. A reminder from Maggie about dinner plans. His phone rang, Cal with an urgent update. "You need to see this. Dom's trying to publish his memoirs." "Let him try," Zeke replied. "The truth is already public record." "That's not all. BEA's involved somehow. They're both claiming new evidence about what happened 10 years ago." Zeke considered this. "Monitor it, but don't interfere." "You sure?" "They could try to spin the story. The facts speak for themselves, Cal. We didn't just destroy them. We exposed them." After hanging up, Zeke opened his personal files. Pictures of his children growing up, family vacations, graduation ceremonies, moments that proved revenge wasn't his only legacy. His security system alerted him to movement at the gate. Emma returning from a date, Thomas from his coding club, normal teenage activities in a family that had transcended its dramatic origins. A final message came through from Detective Chun. now running the Financial Crimes Division. Regular updates on Dom and BEA's activities had become routine, more habit than necessity. Still monitoring the situation, sir? Nothing significant to report, because that was the real victory. Not just destroying his enemies, but rendering them irrelevant. Their attempts at redemption or revenge mere footnotes in a story that had moved far beyond them. Zeke closed his laptop and headed to the kitchen, where his children were raiding the fridge after their evening activities. "Dad," Emma called out, "want to hear about this new encryption protocol I'm developing?" "Always." As he listened to his daughter's technical explanation, Thomas adding his own insights, Zeke reflected on the decade's transformation. From a man driven by revenge to a father focused on legacy. From destroying lives to protecting them. The security system hummed quietly, monitoring potential threats. Somewhere in the city, his former wife struggled to rebuild her shattered life. His former rival sat in a prison cell, dreaming of lost power. But here, in this moment, none of that mattered. Because Zeke Hayes had built something stronger than revenge. Something more lasting than destruction. He'd built a future. And that was the greatest victory of all. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.